Jacqui, it's such a delight to have you here. I'm so excited for the conversation that we're going to have. Thank you for joining me for the podcast today.
Oh, you're most welcome. I'm already excited too.
Yay. All right, well, let's dive in. To start off with, I'd love to hear a little bit about your own personal experience of becoming a mum and your matrescence journey, how it was for you, where you found strength and support along the way, what you found valuable, just anything you want to start off with sharing with our audience today.
Well, my first experience was nearly 18 years ago. So I've got two daughters. And my first, so backing the truck up a little bit, I'm a registered nurse. So I'd been working in neonatal intensive care and SCBU, special care baby unit. I'd worked with family and children for, at that point, I'd been a nurse for, trying to make the math. So I've been a nurse for 28 years. That was 18 years ago. So I've been 10 years a nurse.
Yeah, so a good amount of time.
Yeah. And so I kind of thought, I can do this. I've seen lots of people do this. I can do this. But I still went, I had the midwife. I went and did the antenatal classes, which was, looking back now, was kind of a horror show actually, which I can share with you. And so then I just had this absolute delusion of grandeur that I was going to birth my baby vaginally and that they would land on my chest and we would breastfeed and I'd be sitting at cafes. I honestly believe that's what I would be doing. And that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. So I have both my babies were very big. So I had 11-pound babies both times. I was a big baby. My mum was a big baby. And I had emergency sections for both of them, which, first of all, blew out my whole delusions of grandeur. Yeah. So, and straight away, failure to progress. So the language was really,
gosh.
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to back the truck up a little bit more, I had a lot of birth trauma. I had a lot of medical trauma as a child. So I was born with a congenital heart condition. And so at 4 years old, my first diagnosis was congenital heart defect. So the language, from a very young age was very negative, very broken, very needed fixing. And through my own health journey, I went into healthcare, but I literally went into healthcare as an unhealed healer. And then I went into motherhood as a disempowered woman. So I'd been menstruating, I was 31 at the time, so I'd been menstruating since I was 13. I'd been a nurse for 10 years, like I said. So I thought, well, this is innate. This is innate wisdom.
Yeah.
I'm like born to do this.
Yeah.
And so I went into labour, and failure to progress. So was, and then all sorts of language, like in my vaginal examinations, it was like, oh, her uterus is tilted, like all that, and I'm like, what does it even mean? Like, I don't even know what you mean. And
you feel like you're failing before you've even begun.
Yeah,
especially with those labels.
Yeah, totally. And I'd always I'd read about the ring of fire. So I remember lying there because I had to wait for about 6 hours for my to be lined up to have my section. And I'd say, the ring of fires, the ring of fires. Because I was just willing it, like I was so willing that I was going to have this natural birth and Madonna delivery. And so it was a long wait. And then she was born by C-section. So this is July 18 years ago. She was taken away and given a bottle straight away. So I had no skin to skin with her.
Wow. This wasn't a thing.
Wasn't a thing. And I got back to the room and they showed my husband where to make the bottle, and which was like A, against all my hopes and dreams, B, against anything I've been taught at antenatal class. Like that was, that we were taught like that was, no, we can't talk about that. And so then, like, I was lying there, you know, recovering from major surgery, and this enormous 11-pound baby lying next to me that I didn't even know, who hadn't touched me. And we were making bottles. And then the next day they came in and they said to me, oh, we're really we're really under the pump. Can you please fend for yourself today? Because they knew I was a nurse. And I was just kind of like, I can't even move. Like, what part am I fending myself on here? And that evening, my mother-in-law came in, and she was a nurse, and she emptied my catheter. My catheter was like a rugby ball. So that was kind of day one of being a mum. You know, like, and there was no real 40 days of matrescence, you know, of gloriousness ahead of me. And and I mean, now I know it all makes sense. Now I know what sort of person I am. I hung in there, and like, I got told things like, did your mum breastfeed? And I said, oh no, she didn't. She was told she didn't have milk. And so then I was told I probably wouldn't have milk. And then and just little things like there was no, and I asked for the lactation consultant to come. There was one lactation consultant at Auckland Hospital, and at Auckland Hospital you only stay there if you've had, you know, a medical delivery. So if you've had a normal delivery, you're out. So one lactation consultant for really high need women and babies, and all around the sign, all the signs were, you know, breast is best, breast is, and I was indoctrinated, you know, I was conditioned. I was a medical professional. I was like, I've got to breastfeed. That's, you know, this is all that's what's going to happen. And so I'm going to cut the story really short, because for 6 months I literally pumped and cried over spilt milk and had the tubes, had the nipple shields, and had so her entire first 6 months of her life, all her videos and photos of with the pump in the background, and me, you know, just going for it. And she had failure to progress. She had failure to thrive. Sorry, I had another failure. And looking back now, I really did have what society would call postnatal depression, and I actually believe I had a postnatal trauma. Mine was more a trauma, because I loved my baby, and I was happy with life, and I was, you know, I was part of life, but every night I ruminated about her birth for a whole year. So I had trauma, and then we wanted to have another baby, so I got pregnant again, and I got halfway through that pregnancy and I thought, I can't do what I did last time. That is not going to work for us. You know, I've now got a toddler. There's no way I can do this. And just this innate wisdom came into me, and I went and had some hypnotherapy to just kind of, I just thought, I'll mop it up, you know, mop some stuff up. And I instantly, very deeply went into that meditation. It was a purposeful, you know, hypnobirthing meditation, antenatal. And she said, I've never seen anyone go in so deep and fast and so quickly. And I thought, oh, okay, cool, sweet. And I also then discovered about hypnobirthing. So I did hypnobirthing as well.
Amazing.
Yeah. And so then the birth came along, the labour came along, and it was mirror, the exact gestation, the exact size baby, the exact time of the day. Everything was exact, but kind of full throttle. And the same thing, emergency section for failure to progress. It actually did progress with her. I did get all the way to 10 centimetres, but she didn't descend. So but that time I kind of went, oh, I've done this before, you know, like I know how to do this. Like, this one's okay. Yeah. And I was in more control. So I was like, as soon as this baby's delivered, I didn't know what we were having. I want the baby on my chest. So I was really so much more in control. And I also had done a lot of research around breastfeeding as well. And I had gone in with formula with me, and I was like, no, I'm not going to put myself into that stress that I went last time. I never had to use the formula. She breastfed. She breastfed for a whole year, and then literally like self-weaned and went into a cup. Like, I was just like, and
I'm done.
Yeah, but I needed that. I really,
I bet that was so healing for you.
so healing. And like I would like Claire, I was just walking around the world with my first baby, Kashi, and I was just like, did you guys like, can you believe how much blood came out of you? Did you know all these things? And people are going, oh yeah. And I was just like, why isn't people talking about this? Like, this is insane. And I remember the first time I went to the shop by myself without my baby and not pregnant. And I remember thinking, why aren't people clapping? Like, why aren't people clapping at me? I have just made a human and it has come out of my body and it's alive. And I couldn't believe people weren't clapping. Yeah. And so life just kind of then, crept into being a mum. And I kind of giggle now because I was kind of think, oh, now I'm a grown up, because I'm a mum. And I think now even like, yeah, I'm a grown up. Like, no one's taught me how to be a grown up. Like I've not.
Yeah. I
have had to go to the school of hard knocks through everything that I've been through to actually understand and know what to do next. And I can't believe people aren't talking about this. Like, I can't believe this isn't, I don't know, I'm back of buses, taught in schools and all this sort of thing. And then 7 years ago, I literally was hit by a Mack truck. Well, figuratively, hit by a Mack truck. And I'd been tapped on the shoulder, and I'd have been hit in the back of my head by 4x4s many, many times before that. But it wasn't until I got hit figuratively by a Mack truck and literally dropped to my knees that I realized the way I was living on the hamster wheel and the way everyone else was living was not sustainable. And that's when my absolute journey to what I now call Heart Place Hospital, which is a multi-dimensional healing, health and education system, began. But it really began at the beginning, but that's when my attention got really like, actually wake up, Jacqui. What we're doing is not working. It's not sustainable. And so I went on my own healing journey 7 years ago, and then I started creating opportunities for people. Like, I was just kind of like, I've got to tell someone this. Like, someone else has got to know this. I can't just know this information. And it was literally innate, ancient wisdom that was coming out of me.
I love it.
And I couldn't even Google some of the stuff. Like, some of the stuff that I was dreaming or downloading or whatever language you want to use, like, I would Google it and it wasn't even in Google. And I'd just be like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And so that's hence the multidimensional. It's the mind, body and spirit, soul, self, inner knowing, whatever language you use. And my inner knowing, because I've been dropped to my knees, was really, really loud. So the crazy lady in the attic that had told me to do, go, be, achieve, was quiet, and my inner knowing was really loud. I thought it was freaking crazy. But then I started meeting other magical mentors who had the same language as me, and so then it was kind of like, yay, and that's the feminine. We're meant to be nourished and nurtured and in community and in circle. And so I started finding circle, and the downloads that I was getting and the information and the visions, like I'm a visionary as well. I was like, wow, we could do this. This could actually happen. Our daughters may not have to go through what we went through, you know, the
Oh,
absolute
yes.
naivety and the secrecy and the taboo that we've been through. Maybe, just maybe, what I'm seeing, we can, you know, allow this for our daughters and our sons, you know, for all humanity. And
I mean, how, and that realization, sorry to interrupt, but I just have to say that realization that it could end now with us in this generation, that is just so powerful, isn't it?
Yeah, totally. And thankfully, gratefully, I don't know, my husband is, I invited him on this journey with me, you know, this healing journey, and he said yes. And he also said it ends here.
Yeah.
So I'll be forever grateful for that. I had no choice. It was do or die. So I was doing, you know, with or without others. And a lot of others haven't come with me. You know, it's very alienating when you step out of the line. It's very alienating when you start talking about, you know, doing things differently. So it's not been easy. It has not been easy. Would I do it again? Hell yes. Hell yes, in a heartbeat. But it is not easy, and it's great, you know, when you find your circle, when you find your people, then it's fun, you know, it's fun because that's the feminine. We're fun, we're you know, we're flowy, we're literally, like, I always think of us like we're flowing water down a river, and the masculine is the banks holding us in. It rocks to slow us down a little bit, because we can't, you know, we can't be and then storms come in and a tree goes down, and that sort of blocks us and makes us stop and think, and or, you know, more water will come, which we're seeing lots of, and you know, my innate wisdom, my inner knowing is telling me that the reason we're seeing so much water is that there's so many more women stepping up and doing the she for the we. And so it's literally the rising of the lost innate wisdom that's coming up. Full body tingles when I say that.
Same.
So I know it's true.
Yes, I've had so many full body tingles as you've been talking the whole way. I'd love to circle back to a few things that you said, because there's just so many nuggets in here, and I'd love to highlight some of them. Firstly, just kind of really, really honoring the journey that you've been on, and I think the highlighting of the lack of support that there is for a woman and for mothers. And I think just highlighting that fact that, you know, nobody was there clapping when you came, after you gave birth to your baby and after you brought new life into the world. Where were all of these people saying, oh my gosh, you're the most incredible thing ever? We just don't have that, unfortunately. I would love if we could shift that in our generation, for people to understand about matrescence and this whole incredible journey that we've been on, and, you know, bringing this new life into the world. And then this, so how did you start to, and I've got full body tingles when you said that your husband was like, yes, I'm on this ride with you, because I think when partners as well can step up and step in to the journey and really walk it alongside, and, you know, as part of this family unit, there's so much power in that. I just love that he said yes to you, and that you're doing this journey together. And I think as well, I'd love to just touch on this hamster wheel of life. And I love the way, you know, and that is very much this masculine experience that we are so often caught in. It's all the doing of motherhood, of and then all that judgment around what it means to be a good mother. You've always got to be doing all the things, and it's exhausting. No wonder we are depleted. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you kind of got off, realized you were on the hamster wheel, got off the hamster wheel, pulled in that support, and what that looks like within your Heart Place Hospital as well.
I love that question. I just something just jumped in, and I just wanted to add to it. back in those days, in that 6 months that I was pumping and doing all that thing, I wrote 7 letters to the government, to the DHB, to the Treasures magazine, all these letters saying, you know, and it was goddess solution based, like I had solutions in place. I wrote to them saying, hey, I've had my first baby, breast is best, and these are my solutions. We need more lactation consultants on our floor and in our community, and it needs to be accessible. And all 7 of those people, Treasures magazine, I won a prize, but all the government DHBs, they wrote back eventually, and with gaslighting letters. I've still got them. I'm going to publish them one day. And at that point, I didn't have the energy. I was in my new rite of passage. I didn't have the energy to pursue it, to go on. Whereas now, 18 years later, nearly 18 years later, I've got an 18 and almost 16-year-old. I do have the energy, and I'm still gaslighted. However, I don't sit back down. I stay standing. And Incredible. Your question was, how did I get off the hamster wheel? I was actually trucked off the hamster wheel. Like I didn't, like there was no, I mean, it even happened to me on the weekend. My inner wisdom said to me, you need to rest, Jacqui. And I thought, yes, I do. I'm listening. I'm going to do that because you're always right. I'm going to do that. And then I went to the market and I went to the cafe, and I thought, oh, it's a nice day, I might garden today. And I thought, oh, hopefully my inner wisdom didn't hear me think that.
Rebellious against your inner wisdom.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was always kind of bargain. But they did. And they absolutely landed me on my ass. So you cannot muck around with your inner wisdom. Yeah. Your inner wisdom will show up in your body and your emotions every time. And I am constantly reminding people that our mental and physical reality is manifested by our experiences and our environment.
Yes.
So I got off I didn't climb off the hamster wheel. I got trucked off the hamster wheel.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so continued that sort of is your like kicking the butt from your higher self to like, come on now, Jacqui.
Every time I lean off my line of devotion, I get kicked in my womb. Absolutely, 100%. Every time. Yep. Yeah. Still, even now, even 7 years later, and I absolutely know how to listen. I know the message. I know to take the action every time. If I don't take the action, don't listen, kicked in the womb.
Yeah. So I think for somebody listening, if they're listening going, oh, I can hear my intuition, my inner voice, my knowing saying, slow down, set boundaries, start receiving help. But then we've got these other also patterns in play that we've been living within for such a long time. We've been, conditioned patterns and beliefs, and we don't yet have that Mack truck, because ideally we wouldn't be smashed over by a truck every single time we want to make it. I don't recommend it. No. So what would your advice be to perhaps these mums that are, I know they would have got so much out of the conversation, but what would you tell them about listening to your intuition? And
take a breadcrumb, and then the next breadcrumb. That's what I say. And then before too long, crumbs then become gold nuggets, and then those gold nuggets become gold boulders. And now I go for gold mountains. Like I am moving gold mountains with Heart Place Hospital, and that's all I'm available for. I've got service providers now who do the breadcrumbs, the gold nuggets, the gold boulders.
Incredible.
I'm now here. I am like system disrupting. I am human activating. Because we actually, I don't know, fun fact, everyone, if we continue living like we are living now, we actually don't have a planet to live on. So, so we actually our planet Earth has moved dimensions, like it's physically moved. And so we've physically moved with it. And so our energy that once was, over in this part of on this angle of the universe is now in this sense. So we see things differently. The light is different for us. And I know that might be a little bit out there for some people, but it's a fact. And our planet is literally screaming out for us. Our kids are dying. Our kids are literally dying. Our men are literally dying. If you're watching this in New Zealand, you know, we have the highest youth and male suicide rate in the OECD.
Yeah.
I mean, they're looking for us to do the she for the we, for us women to evolve so that we can all evolve. Because we are so missing, full body tingle, we are so missing. We're so missing the feminine. And I'm not talking man and woman. I'm talking they. You know, my husband's got his feminine. He's got 2 daughters. I mean, he's got like, you know, he has got to find his. He's got to find his flow. He's got to not take things personally, because we are. You know, my daughters both menstruate, so they have, you know, they have their pretty much 4 set seasons. I'm transitioning. I'm a big spiral. Like you can, I can be a hot mess 1 millisecond and a hot healed sex. I can do that too. Next millisecond, and I've got zero control of that. Zero. And when I do have control of it, I get sore, I get grumpy, you know, like when I actually just let it happen, I'm just like, man, I'm hot messing it right now.
Yeah. And I can really feel as well that this is you coming into your elder and into your, you know, that the elder of the village, and that doesn't, in that way, that's the sage, you know, not the old lady kind of elder. Power and that strength. Yeah,
I feel longer, leaner, sexy as fuck.
Yes.
And
yes,
I feel most powerful. I feel powerful, feel potent. I feel very knowing. I was interviewed on a nurse podcast by a male nurse. And he's like, how do you know? And I'm like, I know. I said, the knowing that I have right now is the same knowing with everything else that I have created in this life. So I know it's going to happen. I know it's happened already. That's how knowing I am. So absolutely, I'm definitely in my power. And I literally feel like I'm returning back to nature.
Yeah.
You know, human beings are the only part of Earth that don't follow nature.
Yes. And it's why we get so much of it wrong, why we're destroying nature, because we're not living aligned. Yes.
And so I'll go into the forest, and the kauri tree, which they tell me it's nothing to do with the kauri infection. It's literally that we haven't been talking to them. That's why they've been dying off. And so I go and talk to them, and then I think, and then I feel like I look at them. They know their worth. They know they matter, and they know they're enough. And so I literally put myself into. I just think I'm a kauri tree. I know that I'm worthy of being here because I'm shining light, and I'm holding space and supporting others to rise up. I know that I matter because why else would I be here right now? Like, why didn't you take me out in the Mack truck 7 years ago? So I definitely matter. And then I know I'm enough. In fact, I know I'm like more than enough. Like, I don't even want to be enough. I want, you know, I am gold mountains. Like, you know, I'm here to really shake up the earth, to really earth shake, to change break, change make. And look, honestly, many times I'm like, why me? No, not me. I don't want to do it. Like,
there's always that voice.
Yeah. But then now I'm like, why not me?
Yes.
You know, why not me? You know, I had open heart surgery as an 8-year-old. I was a nurse and saw, you know, a really fractured healthcare system. I birthed babies in a really fractured system. They were educated. I was educated in a fractured system. I was the nurse at the front line of the first community case of COVID in New Zealand. Why did that happen? You know, like, why did that happen? I was gaslighted out of that role. I was bullied. I've been alienated. And still I show up and shine. So I just, and you know, and I see my mum healing, and I see my daughters thriving, and it hasn't been easy for them. You know, the daughter that I spoke about, who had the failure to progress, who had the failure to thrive, she was a gun. She was a loaded gun, and then COVID was the trigger for her. So she has had to go through a journey of what we didn't get in Matrescence, and that, you know, that breaks my heart. You know, and I wrote letters and I asked for help and I didn't get it. And so thank you for doing what you do, because you can see 18 years later, it's shit. And we've had to do massive repair to her ruptures, and we've had to do it alone. Well, we've done it with Heart Place Hospital, actually. We haven't done it through the conventional medical centre system because it is cruel and it is nasty, and I couldn't put her through that again. So we have used healed healers from Heart Place Hospital to support her and us through that, and I'm happy to say that compared to someone else who's gone through what she's gone through, it has been a short journey and she is thriving.
Oh my gosh, Jacqui.
Yeah. And she's going to be a powerhouse. She's going to be doing something in that area, because she's like not even 18 and saying to me, Mum, we can't keep doing this to people.
I just get this really, sorry.
Yeah. No, that's me.
Yeah, I just want to honor and see that, bring light to this. I've just got this beautiful vision of all that you've shared, that you've been through, and with your daughter that you were just speaking about, how it's almost you birthing her into the world has birthed, although it's been a journey, it's birthed you into your power, into your strength, into your wisdom, and also then it's birthed Heart Place Hospital. And just, you know, she's almost feels like the poster child in a way. And I don't mean that in like the actual face of it necessarily, but what a powerful, incredible story, and how she's just been center of the whole journey of even just, you know, her birth was almost that highlighting of the broken system and the need for such an incredible offering, and this disruption of, and I love the way you say that the she for the we. And I think, you know, and part of what I love about Matrescence is that when we become mothers, our brains actually transform, just like they do in adolescence, transform from me thinking to we thinking. And all of us mothers have the power to be in our power in the way that you've spoken about, that you have now found for yourself, Jacqui. And when I was listening to you sharing your knowing and your wisdom before about, I am enough, I am more than enough, I matter, and that energy reflecting with the kauri tree, I just feel like those were just such healing words for you to voice, to share, and I think also as affirmations for everybody to be saying to ourselves every single day. I mean,
I'm long, lean, sexy as fuck. I say that to myself every day.
I love it. I mean, imagine, you know, if all of us women, mothers, could be in our power and not have to go through, you know, and generations to come, our daughters, not have to go through the same invisibility, being completely ignored, completely unsupported, and then come into their power much younger than we are doing. You know? Not that we're old, But, you know,
Yeah.
as soon as their babies are born, or even before that, you know, just never disconnecting from their power. There's so much potentiality there.
Oh, honestly, like the language that my daughters say to me, they say things like, oh, I'm not doing that for you, Mum, I'm doing it for me.
Oh,
And I'm just like,
love it. Yes.
and
yes, do it for yourself.
Yeah, honestly, they blow my mind. And you know, they've got Instagram pages, they share the journey, you know. So yeah, I'm going to call myself a hope merchant and a love rock star, and I just literally think, you know what, we're going to make it. We're actually going to make it. And this is, it's them, you know, us doing the she for the we. We're the light at the top of the lighthouses for these future generation who, in their minds, you know, like one of my daughters said to me the other day, why do we keep fixing our roads, Mum? Why don't we have hydrogen flying cars? And I'm like, why don't we? Like, you know, like, why do we keep patching these roads and holes in the road, which, you know, we're pretty diabolical. So we need to be nurturing and nourishing these young future thinkers. And that is Heart Place Hospital. So Heart Place Hospital is service providers all around the world, healed healers. So they've, like me, had their defining moments, had them, not all of them Mack trucks, definitely 4x4s. And they're committed to their healing. So I love it. I adore it because they all contra one another. They've all had healing from one another, which is amazing to witness and watch. And so it's this growing community, global community. And it is focusing on those in the front line. So those in the front line to health, education, and parenting.
Incredible.
And use me as a case in point with my daughter, you know, through her recent exploration, I went really deep into my exploration, and so did a lot of cord cutting and wound healing, and I would do that, and the next day I would see her thrive. So, you know, she lived in my womb, you know, like she lived in my womb. And when she was in my womb, you know, as a nurse, I was a busy nurse doing, you know, emergencies. So she got all that code. So I need to support her to decondition that. And then of course the breastfeeding, you know, the stress of pumping and spilt milk, and she got all those stress hormones too. So so that in Heart Place Hospital, so there's in person, there's online, and there's also group work, but there's actually something for everybody, because some people don't want to get on Zoom, some people don't want to come to an in-person, and so we do messaging, back and forward messaging support for those who are kind of more people who don't want to be so visible. I've co-authored a book called Letters to a Future Nurse, with 22 nurses around the world. These are all it's really interesting, because it's very difficult for me to get these stories out, because the news and media don't share solution-based stories or something. I'm not quite sure. And that's not from lack of trying. I've done lots of media releases, and I've sent my book around the world, or our book. So it's really interesting that how tricky it is. There is an international study to show, called the Woodhull study, to show that where relevant, only 2% of nurses' stories are shared in news and media.
Wow. That's saying a lot.
It's saying a lot. So to me, that's saying, hey, here we are, you know, our most trusted profession.
Yes.
And you know, they're in the front line. They know what's working, what's not working, and we're not sharing those stories.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
So that is a really big mission of mine. I'm off to Fiji next week to speak.
Amazing.
In front of 70 international women. So I really feel like that's a real portal for my next step. So my big gold mountains are speaking on stage and speaking to these stories. And then I have service providers all around the world that can actually create create the change. Heart Place Hospital is a charity. So currently it is an open collective charity, but I'm minutes away from being a New Zealand registered charity, and I've got the kick-ass board, which is really exciting. So I really feel like, you know, our needs, we all have unmet needs. We don't all necessarily have big capital T traumas, but the Heart Place Hospital is filling all my unmet needs, absolutely 100% filling all my unmet needs. And the service providers on there, and I'm always open to talking to people about being service providers, and you're very valued, very respected, and very cared for. And we have lighting and sound alchemists, we have safe haven alchemists, we have birthing guide doulas, we have medical doctors who now are Kundalini teachers and quantum healers. We have all multidimensional support, and so mind, body, soul, all interconnected. Yeah. And we just have to normalize that message. Absolutely have to normalize it and be the example. And I show up every day on my platforms so that I can be an example of normalizing, you know, and I go to a static dance, and I go to, you know, cacao sound healing, and they're now my equivalent of going to, you know, a cocktail party. So
yes. And the doctor at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And this is the thing, this is with Heart Place Hospital. It's the first I've heard of anyway that's around prevention rather than cure. So, you know, you think about
so important
raises where you drink pink champagne and eat pink cakes, and you think, I'm sorry, like, have I just given you my money and you've just given me what I'm helping you cure? So yeah, Heart Place Hospital is that. So if you're in New Zealand, we've got Kids Can who are feeding and dressing our kids. We've got Gumboot Friday who are supporting their mental health, and then Heart Place Hospital actually is that whole health, whole person, holding the whole, you know, every barometer of where that young person hits, their schooling, their home, their health support.
And I love how multi-dimensional and how healing it is on so many layers. Like there's just this ripple effect of your vision flowing out into the world, but it's actually, you know, it's that real on the ground support and integrated in the ways that we are so in need of.
Yeah. And it's really important that it's accessible. So
yes.
You know, so that's why it's a charity, and that's why you know, there's multifaceted ways of accessing the support. There's multi service providers because one might not suit, and yeah, I love it. I love her. I love she is my reason for still being on this planet, because 7 years ago it was moving far too fast for me, and I didn't know if I could hold on. And I know a lot of people can relate to that right now, because I'm talking to a lot of people around, you know, literally holding on to furniture as you walk around the house.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful expression of how slowing down and getting into your feminine, actually the ripple effect of the power of that is incredible, and the changes that can be made because of that into the world are just so far reaching, beyond what we could have done if we stayed just in the masculine push, do, exhausting ourselves every single day. Jacqui, where can people find out about Heart Place Hospital, find you online, become part of your world, and be part of this vision and journey?
Yes, so I'm on Instagram and Facebook as Heart Place Hospital, as in heart, and I am heartplace.org.nz. I'm also on LinkedIn and just Facebook as Jacqui O'Connor. My heart's on my sleeve. I don't hide anything, so I'm pretty easily fine. You can find me pretty easy.
As it should be with you. Thank you so much for this incredible work that you are doing in the world, for sharing your journey. It's just been absolutely extraordinary to have shared that with you today in our time together, and I'm so excited for all that you are birthing into the world and continue to share for us. It's so needed and so incredible. Thank you, Jacqui.
And thank you back at you. Thank you for creating the space to share the stories, because they're very tricky to find. So thank you for taking that, the energy to make the spaces. It's really important.